Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lightside Music Reactions. It's great to be here with you today. I am in a little bit different surrounding than usual. We're at a different location. I'm indoors today and I'm dressed up in my winter gear. It's that time of year again where it starts getting cold outside, so you have to dress warm. So all of you watching from home or wherever you're at, make sure you're dressed warmly and ready to take on the world. Anyway, thank you guys for being here with us today. Today we are reacting to the song Frosty the Snowman, which is from the Rankin Bass TV special from 1969. And of course, that's one of the classics. We watch it every year. The Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, one that we reacted to last week. And then this week, for TV Thursday, is the Frosty the Snowman from 1969. These television specials, cartoons, animated, they are a part of our history. Very nostalgic for somebody like me that grew up in the 1970s, and so I grew up watching this sort of thing. And even today, it's still very popular. The TV special itself first aired on December 7th, 1969 on CBS, immediately after the fifth showing of A Charlie Brown Christmas. And of course, that's another classic. So guys, go ahead and comment down below. What are some of your favorite Christmas TV specials and Christmas movies and stuff? And maybe for TV themed Thursday, we'll react to music from some of your favorite TV and movie specials. But yeah, again, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, 1964. That's the one we reacted to last week. Today's Frosty the Snowman from 1969, and we're reacting to the theme song sung by Jimmy Durante. Some of the others that, the TV specials, you got Santa Claus is Coming to Town from 1970, and The Night Before Christmas, and The Year Without Santa Claus, both from 1974. And then a bunch of others that followed for years, Jack Frost in 1979. And then I don't remember much of them after that, but go ahead and comment down below if you know of any newer ones from 1979. Or even any of the older ones that are some of your favorites that I didn't mention here. And maybe we'll react to some of those. But anyway, the TV special aired annually for the network's CBS's Christmas and holiday season until 2023. And then this year, NBC acquired the broadcast rights. So if you're wanting to watch it, it won't be on CBS this year. It'll be on NBC. Anyway, Jimmy Durante was the narrator for the TV special, and he sang the theme song. He was an American comedian, actor, singer, and pianist, and he had that distinctive gravelly voice. Cha-cha-cha was his thing. Some of his nicknames they used to call him, they called him the Schnoz and the Great Schnozola. In fact, he used to comment about that himself, that he'd call himself those names, referring to the size of his nose. But he passed away January in 1980 at the age of 86. Very classic. If you're not familiar with Jimmy Durante, you've got to look up some of his stuff. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. This is Jimmy Durante singing the theme from Frosty the Snowman. And so here we go.
Happy birthday!
And of course, that happy birthday, that's from the TV special when Frosty first woke up, which is kind of interesting because it was literally his birthday. You think about how if you're watching the special, kids thought that was funny, that he said happy birthday. Well, it's not a birthday, it's Christmas. But for him, literally, it was his birthday. And so, nice little play that they had there, that it was actually his literal birthday. Okay, let's get back into this. Jimmy Durante, Frosty the Snowman.
The snowman was a jolly happy soul, with a corn-cob pipe and a button nose and two eyes made out of coal. Frosty the snowman is a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old silk hat they found. Oh, when they placed it on his head, he began to dance around. Frosty the snowman was alive as he could be, and the children just the same as you and me.
Okay, so this is the classic part of the song that we all know. Frosty the Snowman was a jolly, happy soul with a corncob pipe and a button nose and two eyes made out of coal. And of course, that's the stereotypical way that you build a snowman. Sometimes you just find whatever you've got handy laying around to substitute for eyes, nose, mouth, and stuff like that. But I remember when we were kids, that's the sort of stuff that we would look for. You get your grandfather's pipe and hope that he doesn't yell at you for taking it. And two eyes made out of coal. And of course, my grandfather was a coal miner, and so there was no shortage of coal when we grew up. And of course, we spent Christmas at our grandparents' house. And so, yeah, if we build a snowman, we had plenty of coal to use for eyes. Frosty the Snowman is the fairy tale they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. That's awesome. The mind of a child. I talk about this often about, as being a pastor, I think about the scripture where Jesus said, if we want to be saved, we have to become like a child. Not childish, but childlike. To have that pure innocence that a child has, to where they have this imagination where they believe that anything can happen. And the world hasn't really jaded them to the point to where they don't believe anymore in the fantastic world of fantasy and imagination. And a lot of times we look at our faith as adults, and we look at the stories in the Bible, and we think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't quite make sense. I don't know how that could be real. Well, we've lost our sense of wonder, we've lost our imagination, and even the reason why we feel that way is because we don't often see those things happen today. And so we dismiss it as being fantasy, and, well, I haven't seen it, so it can't possibly be real. And then we learn later, well, I start to see things in your own life, and, well, maybe it is possible. And then you start seeing more things. It's like, my goodness, it really does happen. It really is true. And so we start to get some of that faith back. And so as we get older, and we live in a society where, and in a time where it's more rare to see what we would classify as miracles and things that would corroborate things that we read about in Scripture. And so because we see that, because we see so much less of it, it makes it harder for us to have a strong and solid faith. And so this story of Frosty the Snowman that's narrated in this song is basically about that faith that a child has that knows that, my parents say there's no such thing as a real life snowman. It's just make-believe. He's not really real. But that faith that maybe it's possible. And, if we have that sort of faith to where we at least accept that it could be possible, then when we start to see the evidence of these things, we don't dismiss it and think we're imagining things. I've been watching some horror movies from the 70s and 80s, and that was a common theme. You think back to Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, that whole series was the idea of, the parents told them, it's not true, it's only in your imagination. But the teenagers, they knew that something was happening, and they just couldn't convince the adults that it was real. And it's the same thing with the Boogeyman series in the 2000s. And then, the whole concept of the parents didn't believe the children, but the children knew that it was happening. And, of course, you're watching the movie, and you get drawn into it, and you're thinking, those stupid parents, why don't they understand? Those crazy adults, it's real. Of course, you're drawn into the movie. But in reality, we all often are those adults and those parents that look at things about faith and say it's not real, it can't be real. And we rely on so-called science, which in today's terms is very questionable. What today's scientists call science, nine times out of 10 anymore, it seems it's not real science. And they'll dismiss the real science and excuse it as fake news and disinformation and misinformation. But always keep an open mind. That if you're talking about true science always has an open mind. There's no such thing as the science is settled. because with true science, the whole basis of science is that it is never settled. Science is always changing because you're always experimenting and you're always open to your theories being proven or disproven. And so when somebody tells you the science is settled, be very skeptical, because the whole concept behind science is that it can never be settled if it's real science, because you're always exploring. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much for this, but let's get back into the lyrics here. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old silk hat they found, for when they placed it on his head, he began to dance around. Frosty the Snowman was alive as he could be, and the children say he could laugh and play just the same as you and me. All right, let's get back into the song. Verse 2. Now this is a scene where the kids will be walking with him down the street. A little bit of foreshadowing there.
Running here and there, all around the square, saying, "Catch me if you can."
Okay, so we got some foreshadowing already. Frosty the Snowman knew the sun was hot that day, and we know what sun does to snow. So he said, "Let's run and we'll have some fun now before I melt away." And so he comes right out and says it. I know that I'm going to melt away, so let's go ahead and live life while we've got the chance. And that's a good thing. We need to recognize that our life here on earth is short, and we have to, live it while we're here. And so I've got no issues with that. Down to the village with a broomstick in his hand, running here and there all around the square, saying, "Catch me if you can." So having a great time. Back to the song. Okay. Okay, now it almost changes to a completely different song. And that fits with the narrative in this song, that they're doing their thing, they're playing with this snowman, then all of a sudden they ran into a traffic cop, and he only paused a moment when he heard him holler, "Stop!" And so they stopped the music, which is a nice little effect to have there, to where you have the actual what the song does. It actually stops when the lyrics say stop, and then it shifts to almost a completely different song. Thumpity thump thump, look at Frosty go. Thumpity thump thump, over the hills of snow. And so suddenly it's almost like a different chapter. It's like you turned a page in a story, and so they changed the music to fit that. And I like that creativity there.
Jolly, happy soul, with a corncob pipe and a button nose, and 2 eyes made out of coal. Frosty the Snowman had to hurry on his way, but he waved goodbye.
Oh, I didn't expect it to end so soon.
I'll be back on Christmas Day.
All right, so that is the whole song. I guess I was just expecting it to be a little bit longer because, of course, it does pause the song there in this Christmas special, and then they continue on with the story, and then they go back in and finish the song at the end. Yeah, you got the story there where it switches to he's running away from the traffic cop, and then they start back in with the conclusion of the song. Frosty the Snowman was a jolly, happy soul. Corncob pipe and a button nose, 2 eyes made out of coal. Frosty the Snowman had to hurry on his way, but he waved goodbye, saying, "Don't you cry. I'll be back on Christmas Day." And so this addresses, in a way that children can understand, the concept of death and the concept of, as Christians believe, the life after death, the resurrection, and eternal life in heaven. And so you've got them telling the story from the perspective of a snowman. And children can see that, how you build a snowman, the sun comes out, and the snow melts, and Frosty the Snowman's gone. It's like teaching small children about death. And so it's very creative, and it's a very good story to rely back on to maybe explain to children about death before maybe even they're ready to accept the death of a pet, and to explain it that way, an actual living creature. But to do it with a cartoon about a snowman makes a lot of sense for really young children to start to introduce them to that concept in a child-friendly way. But it's a beautiful story because it tells us about how the sun came out and melted him, and it teaches us about our own death, that our time here is short, as it says in the song. So let's go out and play while we can. But then when the sun comes out, the children are all sad because Frosty melted away. And when the miser took his hat off and took the magic out of his life, and he was suddenly unable to come to life, he was just standing there all frozen. That is a form of death. And so it teaches us, as adults even, that our time on earth is short, and we have to accept that. So the sun comes out, and eventually we all melt in the proverbial sense. But I like how this ends. Frosty the Snowman had to hurry on his way, and we all do. Eventually we all have to hurry on our way. But he waved goodbye, saying, "Don't you cry. I'll be back again someday." Or I'll be back on Christmas Day, depending on which version you're listening to. And that is the beauty of Christianity. Is at funerals, it is a somber time because there is a time for mourning and there's a time for us to be sad. But at the same time, it's a celebration because if we belong to Christ, then we know that we'll be back again someday, just like Frosty the Snowman. And so at funerals, I've heard said, list of the top 10 things not to do at a funeral. And one of those is you don't want to laugh at a funeral. I could understand how that would feel out of place, depending on the circumstances. But in the right circumstances, laughter at a funeral can be appropriate. For example, it is a time of celebrating that the person is, you're mourning the fact that they're not here any longer and you're going to miss them, but you celebrate at the same time the fact that they have gone home to a far better place, if that's what you believe. And so it's not a time of sadness, if that's what you believe. It's a time of joyful celebrating. And so it makes a lot of sense saying at a funeral, "Don't cry. I'll be back again someday, and I'll be with you again." All you have to do is just follow the way I went. Follow me to where I went. Heaven is a place that is far better than anything in this earth, and it's a place where snowmen don't melt. Anyway, I rambled on long enough, but I love the song. I love the story behind it. I love Jimmy Durante. He's a great comedian from a different time, a different era, and I don't think we'll ever have another quite like him. But go ahead and comment down below. What are some of your favorite songs? What are some of your favorite Christmas specials? And maybe we'll react to some of those here in December while we are doing the Christmas and holiday reactions. So thank you again for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you're not subscribed already. And we'll see you tomorrow for some more light side music reactions. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.